Hi guys, I'm Miss Whitlow. I'm an English 2 teacher here at Temple High School, and I'm going to be going over your credit recovery packet that you have received. So you'll notice that this first page here that you've been given is a cover sheet and gives you quite a bit of information. Be sure that you look through that with your guardians, with your parents, so that you'll know for sure exactly what we're asking of you. Of course, make sure that you have your first and last name on all of the papers, your ID number, and even your advisor's name when you get that information, because we don't want your papers to go missing and then for you to not receive credit during summer school. It mentions here that you should also, if you ever need any help from the tech spot or any technology support, or if you even have issues trying to understand your material, you can always call the school or your advisor at this number listed. Completed work drop-off times are Mondays through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the 9th grade center. And the absolute last due date, completed packets must be submitted no later than 4 p.m. on Wednesday, June 24th, in order to be considered for credit for English 2. So you have plenty of time to work on this material, but again, if you ever have any questions or concerns, call your advisor or the school. The next page you'll see in your packet is the English 2 playlist for credit recovery. I've given you kind of an idea of how to work through the packet, and I've shown you what the lesson is, what skill you will be working on, and then how to kind of break apart the instructions. For instance, your first assignment will be about denotation and connotation, and I ask that you read the notes about it first, kind of understand it before you just dive right in. Then you're going to fill in the charts and answer the questions. And then I also make note about a teacher key that is there in that handout. So on the left, you have a lesson. On the right, you have the instructions. And you can just see all that you need to work on for your credit. The first assignment that you have, again, is word choice, denotation and connotation. I've given you the definitions of these elements. Denotation is dictionary, literal meaning of words. Connotation is the common association that people make with words, positive or negative. So it's kind of how you feel about a certain word, what images or ideas come up when you say that word. I've given you some examples and a little bit of practice to kind of work through denotation and connotation. The actual exercise begins when I tell you to choose a car, choose 2 cars. What is the actual definition of those cars? What do those cars, what are they made out of? Who are they from? And then I've given you a space to kind of tell me, what do you usually think of when you say the word Lamborghini or Ferrari, right? So work your way through that chart, and then at the end of that page, you'll be coming up with a car and color that describes you. The second part of that connotation practice is where I have given you a word in this second column here, like inactive, and you're going to come up with a favorable or a positive and an unfavorable or a negative word that relates to inactive or shy or funny, right? So we're building our vocab here by trying to come up with words that have similar dictionary meanings but different shades of feeling, okay? At the bottom of that handout, you'll see it says possible answers, teacher key. I want you to understand that this is not the answer, right? I should not see relaxed and lazy up in this chart. This is not a copy and paste assignment. This is rather a chance for you to be guided to kind of see what I'm looking for in possible answers. If we copy and paste those answers into here, I'm just going to have to give you a 0 because we really haven't done any work. So be sure that you're just using this as guidance rather than the answers. The next assignment here is called Kindness, What I've Learned from 3,000 Children and Adolescents. And it's an article, an informational article about kindness. As you work your way through, you'll be given questions. Some are poll questions where you can't get them wrong. They're kind of based on how you feel. Some are based on the text. So you'll read and you'll see some of these questions, and those you will need to get right. There are different sections. There's short answer, response, and you'll just work your way through this article. At the end of the article, you'll notice that there is another short answer response, and it asks, use at least 2 examples from the text to support your answer. So be sure that you are annotating, taking notes, highlighting, writing all over this article so that you can answer these questions to the best of your abilities. All right, the next assignment after that article is a quick write response to that article called Acts of Kindness. I've given you this sheet of paper to write your essay. However, if you'd rather use a piece of notebook paper, that is fine too. Be sure that you are using detail, support, and description to really create depth to your answer, to your response. The prompt here is, how can one act of kindness given to someone snowball into more acts of kindness being given to more people? So think on that prompt a little bit. And what we're looking for is about 2 paragraphs or 150 words to answer this response, okay? The directions for this are up in the playlist, but just be sure we're looking for about 2 paragraphs or 150 words. So we should be filling up both of these pages for that assignment. The next assignment is sentence types. So you'll be looking at simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences. I've given you the definitions of each of these types of sentences and then given you examples of what those look like. For instance, simple sentences contain a subject and a verb. They are complete sentences that can stand by themselves. They're usually, the cat is gray. Very simple sentences, subjects and verbs, right? But it's going to get a little bit harder as you go down. Compound sentences, you're combining 2 independent clauses, 2 simple sentences, most likely. Complex sentences usually have an awubis, if you remember talking about that with your teacher, or these subordinating conjunctions, right? And then finally, you're going to look at compound complex sentences where you are combining 2 sentences, and one is most likely a complex sentence with that awubis. So your practice after looking at those notes is to identify whether the sentences below are simple, complex, compound, or compound complex. And then you're going to underline dependent clauses where it applies. So for number 1, you're going to put out to the side, is it simple, complex, compound, or compound complex? Just write that out to the side. And then you're going to look at that sentence and tell me, is there a dependent clause there? Now remember, dependent clauses are phrases that cannot stand alone. They are not complete sentences. They are not independent. If I was walking by in the hallway and said this phrase to you and then walked away, you wouldn't understand because you need more to the story. Those are dependent on more information. So you'll underline those phrases where you find them in those 8 examples there. The next assignment is commonly confused words. Now this worksheet, I've given you several words that people confuse, even adults confuse and spell incorrectly in sentences. I've given you the definitions for these pairs of words, and I've shown you which spelling goes with which definition. Now on the back of that page, you'll see about 20 sample sentences, and you have to choose which word goes with the context of that sentence. So you'll underline or circle the correct word that goes with that sentence. Finally, this is your last assignment. This is the poem analysis, and it is a little bit tougher than some of the other assignments, but it's because we've worked our way up, hopefully, through the packet. Now, this is called The Dawn's Awake, and my best encouragement for you is to just read the poem a few times. Read it through, annotate, take notes, highlight where you can, and just get the general understanding of it first before you even really, look at the questions. Then you'll notice you have about 6 questions here where you are to answer the questions completely in complete sentences. Going through these questions, you'll see that it's asking, 2 or 3 things from you. So number 1 says, identify 2 examples of personification. Explain what is being personified and how in each example. So the first part of this is identifying 2 examples. So you could put a quote there, or you can say line 3 and line 5, examples of personification, but you're not finished. The second part is explain what is being personified and then how. So how is this leaf or this tree being personified with human characteristics? Tell me about that. So there's 3 sections to some of these questions. Just be sure that you are looking at it all the way and then answering completely. Now, because poetry analysis is a little bit more difficult, I have given you a resource in the last sheet of the packet that says Common Types of Figurative Language. I've given you, the definition and some examples for metaphor, simile, oxymoron, hyperbole, personification, idiom, and onomatopoeia. If you don't remember, you can look through this handout and kind of get a better idea of figurative language that can help you going back to the analysis of this poem. All right, so that is the remote learning packet. Remember, if you ever have any questions, feel free to email or call your advisor or the school so that you can get your credit for English 2. All right, thank you.